Hey guys, I just wanted to make this quick breakdown video on gold. So I was already in the middle of marking this chart up, so I thought I'd just record it for you guys to see, so you can see how I'm breaking it down. So basically, I just started by plotting some of the liquidity lines. Right, so I started from up top here, where price eventually got up to, which was around the 2140, our original targets from last week when we were in the range. When gold was in the range, we are saying if it breaks out of that blue box, it should come all the way up into that next daily level, which it did, and it did pull that liquidity and then come all the way back down. So these are the initial liquidity points that we plotted a little while ago, and these are the ones that I put in right now. So basically, with this, it just gives me my levels, right? So where is price going to go when it gets under this liquidity level? It will probably come down to this one, right? Will it bounce here and go back up? Who knows, right? That's something that we'll find out when price gets down here. If not, right, if price is to continue bullish, then we'll be looking for it to break out of this liquidity level up here, right? The previous one that was created. So once price breaks out of that one, right, we would be expecting price to kind of channel back up into those highs. And then from there, we could see if it's going to come back down, right, or it's going to break out of those highs, retest it, and continue going bullish. So that's kind of the thought process behind these levels here. So I drew these levels off of the daily time frame just to start because the daily time frame is very clean. You can see these levels very easily. So by marking them on the daily time frame, when I break it down into the lower time frames, I'll know the larger time frame, right? The larger picture and where price could go if it chooses to trend in a certain direction. So right now we did take the highs and we did pull back. There is a really big bearish candle here. So at this point, personally, I am waiting for price to either break back above that liquidity so I can take it long back up, maybe up towards the bodies or back up to that high there. Or I'm waiting for it to break underneath that liquidity so I can take it back down to this level here and then back down into these levels here, right? If it's to continue back down. Now, if we break this down onto the smaller time frames, because this is off the daily, so if we are waiting for the setup on the daily, it is going to take a little while. So if we break this down onto the 4 hour, so these are our lines now on the 4 hour, you can see that price is in these lines, right? Moving in between these lines. When it's above it, it's going bullish. When it gets below these lines, it goes bearish. So right now we did take the liquidity from up top and we're just waiting for some action here. So if we look at price action right now, right, we've broke inside of this buy side liquidity level. Right before, previously, we were breaking above, resting above. We kind of broke back below, but then after we broke back below, we created that swing high or the swing point low, right? And then from that swing low, we pushed all the way up to the highs there. And then now we are back below that low. So what I would technically would be looking for is a kind of retest below that level and then a continuation down. If price gets above that level, then I'll be looking for it to kind of retest on that level and then take that swing back up. So those are kind of the entry options that I'm looking for on gold right now off of the daily and the 4 hour time frame. If we break this down a little bit further down into, let's say, the 15-minute time frame, right, we can see if I um, minimize this, like if I squeeze the zoom here, then we can see all of our levels here, right? So if we keep going to the left, we can see how price is moving between our levels. So now off of the 15-minute or the 5-minute time frame, which we'll go to just after this one, we can kind of set up our entry. right? We can now kind of start to set up our entry based off of what's happening on these lower time frames. So now, based off your entry methods, like if it's a price trap breakout kind of method or break and retest, you can technically start to look for those kind of entries off of the 15 and the 5 minute time frame here. So basically, we can see that off of the higher time frames, we had that big push, right? Same thing on the lower time frames. We have that big push down into this liquidity zone that was drawn off of the daily, which is holding as a support. So off of this zone, price started to push all the way back up, just missed coming back up into that zone. So right now, I would like to see if price is going to work its way back up into that zone, either take that liquidity from up top and bring it back down, or if price is going to break up, rest above that zone, so we can take it long back up into these levels here. Right, so those are kind of the options off of the lower time frame, just seeing that price is pushing down, kind of creating that bearish flag formation. And then we will be looking for a potential spike up and then that push all the way back down for the bearish side. Bullish side, again, we're looking for that breakout, rest above, and then the long continuation up. Get rid of lines, and then we'll drop it down into the 5 minute time frame just to see if we can tighten up an entry a little bit more. Delete that. Delete that, and then we'll drop it down into the 5 minute. Right, so the 5 minute, we can see the same kind of formation, right? Same thing. Price came, bounced off of these levels. So the lower we go in time frames, the more price action you're going to see at this level. So if we drop down to the 1 minute, at that same level, you can see a lot more price action, right? So if we draw a box around this zone here, we can see that it is in a massive range. But we can see that price didn't really break out of the range until this point here. At that point, it kind of fell back into the range and just stayed in it until about this point here when it rebroke outside of that range. Also, we can see that this was an area of liquidity off of the 1 minute time frame, right? So this was a swing point off of the 1 minute time frame, and then we can see that price came down off of it right onto our trend line, started going along our trend line, then price cleared this buy side liquidity off the 1 minute. I'll put BSLQ here. Off of the 1 minute, it retested above and then it took off from there, right? And it's still staying above this zone, but it's still on our trend line, right? So we can see that price is still going bullish. So is it going to continue bullish or is it going to reverse bearish back below this zone here? Right. So personally, I won't be looking bearish until price comes back into this underneath this zone here and then can retest it for that continuation down, back down into this level here, right? Which will be back into these levels here. So yeah, that's basically what I'm looking for on gold. This is the gold futures. And that's basically the setup that I'm looking for. And you can see now how we broke it down off of the daily into the 4 hour. So we're just marking our liquidity levels off of the daily, not marking all of the liquidity levels. So the reason I do it off the daily is just to keep the chart clean, because if we start marking them off the 15 or the 5 or the 1 minute, we're going to have a lot more levels. You can also mark them off the 1 minute and 5 minute just when you're kind of looking for that entry, right? So off the 1 minute, for example, you can see the same kind of liquidity setups happen, right? You just kind of want to wait for those setups to happen in that direction off of the lower time frames, right? So you want to mark the ones that are most relevant. You don't want to mark too many like off to the left because then you'll just have a bunch of lines on your chart. So usually I just mark the ones off of the higher time frame. And then when I can get down onto the lower time frames, this is when I'm just going to mark out my ranges, mark out my trends, my wedges, and kind of trap price and wait for a breakout in that overall higher time frame direction. So that's basically how I am breaking it down. And this is the breakdown for gold. Just thought I would send this over to you guys because I was marking it up for tomorrow's New York session. This move could happen earlier, so I will be setting my alerts on this just in case price breaks above this liquidity line or it breaks below that liquidity line, then I may look to get into an entry early. But this setup right now that I'm doing is more for a New York session tomorrow. So hopefully we can get some movement in New York session and clear some of these levels. I hope this video helps you guys. If it doesn't, make sure you reach out and I will see you on the next one.